Welcome in to the SorareAndrews podcast brought to you by Sorare Data. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined as always by Andy Black, who you can find as Black on Sorare. Today to talk about the future of Sorare football. And we had a special guest. We have one actually. And everyone's like, who is it? Who could it be? And it's somebody that I told Andy, I was like, hey, I'm going to ask this guy to come on. And Andy was like, yes, absolutely. I love talking.
No, I was like, oh, I hate this guy.
Not true. He's all very excited. And everyone was like, who could it be? And I asked this person to come on for a number of reasons. One of which is he's very good at taking a broader look at Sorare and understanding where we've come from and where we are now, and has good ideas of what is going to come in the future. And given that that's what we were going to talk about, I think we had to have it on. So for everybody who is watching, if you could just, instead of applause when he comes on, if you could just hit the like button on the video, that's always really helpful. But bringing on now, he's hiding in his screen, but he can come on now. We've got Quinny. Quinny's here. Quinny, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. What an intro. Thanks a lot, Laird. You're far too kind.
It was weird because I was like, if I tell everyone Quinny's going to come, then everyone will just come and there won't be any like surprise excitement. But also now I'm like, oh, nobody knows he's here because I just announced it now. And Josh Forth, unfortunately, was looking for Evaldo, who is in Qatar, actually. So that why
he's fun. Really? A live stream from Qatar. Let's do that.
Yes. I've seen some pictures of Evaldo in Qatar. It looks like he's having a good time. So anyway, Quinny, thank you for coming on. I have to actually say that the topic of this show was one that I said to Andy. I mean, I've planned this for a long time. So what was this, yesterday, Andy, that I told you the idea?
It was like 2 days ago, yeah.
Okay. So I was listening to the latest So Far So Rare podcast, Nellis's show. If you guys don't subscribe to that, you should. And he was talking with Josh Forth, who was in chat, sitting here disappointed because Evaldo isn't our fourth guest. But they were talking about the Global Cup and all the free-to-play stuff. And they kind of like casually mentioned this idea of like having like domestic league competitions. And I was listening in the car and I was like, holy shit. We might be here at the beginning of Sorare possibly becoming the biggest free-to-play fantasy football game in the world. And when the Prem comes on, could Sorare Premier League become bigger than FPL? And then I was like, okay, I'm going a little crazy here. So I should just talk about this with other people. Quinny, do you think it's possible that Sorare, a free-to-play Sorare game, could be bigger than FPL?
I think it has the potential to, for obvious reasons, but I think most people that set out a fantasy team, like if you look at FPL, FPL's like gym memberships in January, like it starts pure high at the beginning of the season and then as the year goes on, it kind of tails off. But that's everyone wanting to set like a dream team for the season, who I think is going to be the full best defense in the midfield and whatever. And as much as you can do that with like your Sorare team, it's maybe not something you get from actually playing SO5 because you're playing 5-a-side. You're just picking optimal defender, midfielder, forwards, so it's a little bit different in that respect. But what I think, like in terms of all the individual leagues, see having that connection or crossover, because the FPL is just limited to the Premier League, but there's tons of fans obviously outside of the world that maybe they do watch the Premier League itself, maybe they don't, but everyone has their local team that they want to follow, and having the potential, like if you want to play the Premier League side of things, but you'll also be bumping into all these mad Scottish people and then all these people in Japan, but most people that play with Japan cards, they're actually in America, by the way, and then all the guys in America, they're actually using cards from Belgium, and then that's the kind of network that I will probably kind of be jumping about. Sorry, I'm Sean Newsham today. I've got the dog with the wines, so forgive me.
No, the game is obviously very different. I was basically thinking of the concept of Global Cup, meaning like they assign salaries to all the players, and you have to pick 8 cards within the salary cap. You play 5 each week. Like, I think that's a very viable game for league, like specific league tournaments. Like we know there's FPL, the Bundesliga has their own fantasy game that is not nearly as big, but is still there. And we know that Sorare have a license for the entire Bundesliga. We know they have La Liga. Did they announce Serie A? I can never remember if they actually got that or not. They did.
I think they did.
Yeah. So theoretically, they could build a Global Cup type game for the Premier League. And the reason that everybody is always when Prem is because that's the league that most people care about. And I don't care about it anymore, but maybe I will once we get the cards. But it just I started thinking of this, that they really could offer this. And I feel like we also have also seen other people discuss the idea of domestic league specific competitions just on Sorare. We they had the special weeklies with La Liga teams. It was that game week 200 when we won those special edition cards that turned into tickets. You could do that for an entire season. And it's obviously a huge undertaking to offer that kind of competition. But all we know is that Sorare just keep growing and want to keep doing more. And so, yeah, this idea of Sorare is now the place to play even free FPL or Bundesliga or Major League Soccer. Why not just do it?
Can I offer a counterpoint?
Please.
In the form of a story.
I love stories.
So have any of you guys or either of you guys shilled the Global Cup to any of your buddies? Got them to play?
Yes.
What was the feedback that you got?
Yeah, nobody was overly excited. It was a lot of work. But international football is a lot of work is the problem.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's my problem.
And I think though with the budget, they didn't really make it that much work because you could buy 5 starters, you could buy 5 guys, you could buy 5 stars. So Dylan, one of our mutual friends, he was on the podcast a couple of times. He had a friend that he had showed it to, and we were actually watching the U.S. England game at a bar, and I asked him how it was going, and he busted out his phone. He was like, "Oh, shit, I gotta log in," and then he logged in. He's like, "I hate that you have to log in every single time that you want to do anything here." And I was like, "Well, but you have the app," but he's like, "Yeah, I can't do anything in the app," and I'm like, "You're right, you can't do anything in the app." So, okay, he finally gets logged in, and then he has to click around, and then finally he's like, "Oh, I go to play, and then live, and then, okay, here's my lineup. This is what I got." And I was like, "Yeah, it was kind of a pain for you to just show that to me real quick." And I think his opinion was, it's fine, but here's what I like instead. And he busted out the FIFA Play Plus app. Have you guys seen that?
The Foot Companion. Yeah, I used to be mad for that.
So he busted that out, and I actually downloaded it too just to see what it was all about. And it is just loaded with sponsorships, and they are gonna hit you with spam emails, and just you got to agree to all these different things. It's Hyundai is going to send you emails. This group's going to send you emails. I am lined up now to get spam email from a billion different places. But I went ahead and I just said, yeah, sign me up. Kill me. Hit me with the spam emails.
Yeah.
So I got signed up and I started playing around with it. They have 15, maybe not 15. They have 10 different games on there, and they're all very different. They have a FPL style game where it's you choose your 11, you get 4 subs. You have to choose a captain. You can sub guys in and out. It is totally FPL.
Yeah, I skipped that one this year.
Okay. They had a bracket challenge.
Yeah.
They had a quiz every day. It's basically a trivia, and it asks you Today it showed you the badge of like 6 different teams, and it was like, what player am I? And it was what player played for all these different teams. So you have to guess the player, and if you get it right, it starts a streak, and then that streak builds over time. So like I did that, and then there's a daily fantasy aspect. There is, but I don't think it's like traditional daily fantasy. I think it's just like choose the players from the games today that will perform the best or whatever, and it's all free to play. And then they also have a like a pick 'em, like pick the teams, pick the scores, whatever. Sorry, I'm turning into like the biggest FIFA Plus show of all time. My God. Any rate, I actually thought it was kind of cool. It was like, this is offering a lot of different things in a free to play way to a user. There's lots of different little pieces to engage with, and they have a pretty slick app that like does all of these things. And I think that that's what's missing before Sorare can really pop. Like that app, you got to be able to set your lineups. You got to be able to quickly, easily check your teams. The notifications have got to be better, because I get notifications that my player scored, and then it shows you the base score, but not the score with the AA. Like the notifications, like the scoring is not accurate. Like that app has got to do everything except for buy and sell cards, because I know that that's like a pain point. They can't do it because the app stores are going to take fees. I think grand scheme of things, they need to get there to where you can buy cards on the app. But even if that's missing, the app needs to be able to do everything. And if they wanted to add pick'ems or brackets or whatever, they could add all of that extra junk, or like what player is going to score the most points this game week, and have a challenge. Like they could do all of these little things and just have these little free to play areas of engagement beyond pick 5 players.
Do you think they will?
Yeah.
I think so. Before I go into that, Percho here says the FIFA Plus Fantasy is trash, worst fantasy game I've ever played. So apparently it looks cool in the app, but did you actually play the whole fantasy game, Black?
I mean, I have a FPL style team, but it's FPL. I will not engage with it. And like Quinny said, it's like gym memberships. I'm gonna sign up for it. I've always got buddies that are like, hey, do FPL with us this year, and I'll like draft a team, put it in there, and then like never log into it again.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Somebody, I think it was Mike Baston. Mike, good to see you. That said, basically my idea was like Sorare Data Cup, but for individual leagues. And it's a little different, but free to play. Like, I think it's more just like Global Cup. The same thing as like, here's your salary cap, go spend whatever it is on 8 players. They could even have subs. As crazy idea, I know. But I don't know. I just feel like that's a better game than what they had with One Shot, where it's like, or like the Academy, where it's just like pick 5 players that everyone else is going to pick and hope you get there first. And I don't know. It just seemed like there's a path to a really good game that's different than what we play normally. Mm-hmm. Like the Global Cup game is extremely different than how we normally play, because we don't own the cards. And so I don't know what the upside is, because like it is kind of weird where we're like, the idea is like play the Global Cup, get hooked on Sorare and go buy cards, but then you're actually playing a very different game than what the Global Cup was.
Well, I mean, if they want to be free to play, they can add all of these different new aspects. It doesn't have to be just bland vanilla, this is the Sorare game that everybody plays. They could have other little things in there. Also, Kay in chat said the Sorare Data app does all those things. Why would they? Well, that was the other thing. Telling your buddies that, oh, well, don't get the Sorare app. Go get the Sorare Data app. They're like, what? Oh, I got to download another app too and log into that website. And it's not ideal.
Certainly not for new people. Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that much. So, Quinny, I'm going to ask you this question because Sam just asked in chat. Is the future of Sorare free to play?
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because you guys will remember, like maybe about a year ago or so, maybe even, I don't know, 14 or 16 months, like they were quite strongly on the record as saying We're not pushing commons. We're not pushing free to play. We would need to basically invent another company in order to do that. And it feels already they've kind of climbed down off that hill already over the last, like, I don't want to say 4 or 5 months. And I think when you look at, the Global Cup, right, I think everything about it has been great. And I think that kind of seed of a vision that you're talking about there, Laird, in terms of like how it could compete with FPL, I perhaps didn't really catch your full meaning on the first passing, but I've got a better, I see a bit better where you're coming from now. And I think that you've definitely got the seed there with the free to play model like, so it kind of goes hand in hand again to what Black was talking about and with his buddy in the bar. Like, and that, again, I thought you were talking about a different app, Black. I was when I used to do Ultimate Team, you can get a wee Ultimate Team app and you can see your team and you can trade cards and all that kind of stuff. It's also FIFA coins. It's not real money and whatever. But if I want to show you my team on that app in a bar, it's 2 taps. It's open and then tab and it's there, if you know what I mean. And then so a lot of these things actually all kind of bump into each other in a roundabout way, I suppose, because if you are going to really attack that free to play model and like it being 5 players might actually, well, probably in my opinion, it probably would be better for the casual. You don't need to pick 11. You don't need to worry about, oh, that guy's suspended. If you're only focusing on 5 or 6 or 7, it's a lot easier than 11 and a bench, and then you've got a transfer budget, and then there's a window, and who did you captain, and there's a free shot, and all the crap that goes along with it. So if it's simpler for like the kind of passive fan to even get involved with, and then it's easy to engage with, oh, who's your team? Who did you pick? And it is like, it's not like, oh, and you're all sitting around the table saying 6 digits out loud for 3 minutes, like
let me type in my 2-factor real quick.
200, it's just boom boom and you're in, and oh, look who I've got, hey,
So I think you touched on like a really good point there, because like the FPL game kind of sucks. Like as an actual game, I get that some people are like really into it, but the whole like, oh, they have 10 million people that play, and it's like they had 10 million people sign up. I'm not sure how many people are actually, I mean, I don't even know what game week they're in at this point. There's got to be somewhere around 20, not even maybe. But like, there's no way that many people are like still active in that game. And it's like, it's just not fun. Like you pick guys and then, your subs, I get the idea, but SO5 is really simple. And
for me, this is all like the strength of Sorare. If you know what I mean, this is what has got me excited about it since I found it, is it's different to all these things where it's not like, if you want to do an FPL team, like if you genuinely think I can pick the best 11 players, you can't do that on FPL because you've got a transfer budget. You can't pick Kane, Salah, De Bruyne, and everyone else, so, but in Sorare, like, especially in the paid version, you can pick whoever you want, like, no one's stopping you. You can play any competition you want. You can mix and match. Maybe there's not a guy in the Premier you like, but maybe there's somebody in the Bundesliga you like. So I think, like it's that is actually part of the thing that does separate Sorare and will advance it, is that it isn't in that confined bubble of normal fantasy football.
On the topic of SO5, Andy, do you think that the biggest thing holding it back is that we all call it SO5 and Sorare calls it SO5? That's a total disconnect between the company and its users.
Yeah, that's it. That's the disconnect for sure.
And do we start calling it SO5 before they call it SO5?
This is like one of those questions somebody would ask Tyler Adams, I feel like. I think it's like a gotcha. You're trying to get in here. I'm going to just choose not to answer.
You're just going to...
Plead the fifth.
That was a tremendous response. Well played. Well played.
It's top notch.
So some people in chat have brought up, where was this one? So, it was Mike again. Of course, Mike Baston had a good comment here. Do you guys think that they're pushing cards being collectible now with these National Series cards as they start to be like, oh no, we have collectibles and we have this free game? And do we, as like current users who bought all of our cards and play in the regular competition, are we going to be left out in the cold?
I think it's their way of like appeasing regulators and like just saying, hey, yeah, but I don't think that that's a core shift to their like plans. I don't think that they're like, oh, we're gonna do all this custom series stuff.
Mhm.
We might see more of it, and there might be like little prize add-ons, but I don't think that it's like a core part of their model.
Yeah, that's fair.
Interesting.
Quinny, do you think they're
I
more
think
likely to have domestic, like specific SO5 competitions, either free to play or in the regular game, before they like
I, th-
split Challenger?
I think limiteds you could definitely do like divisional. You could do Jupiler and limiteds. You could do Holland. You could do Scotland. I think any of the Challenger divisions at limited level you could definitely do full competitions for tomorrow, just for the amount of cards that are available and
Yeah.
the amount of people that would actually deploy a team. So I think there's 100% space for that. No problem at all.
Does it get you to buy more cards, like you specifically?
I was going to say on the collectible thing as well. I think the World Cup is just an easy kind of, because like if you are going to hold, as many of us do, like the value of holding a card and ownership and all the main things that make Sorare different and what will set it apart from everything as things roll on. I've just totally lost myself here. Sorry. But no, I've lost it. Sorry, I forgot. I've totally lost my point.
I'm still.
Collectibles. Oh yeah. So like, I think these World Cup ones are just like, it's very obvious if you were to come into Sorare and people say, oh, these are nice looking cards and you can't use them, and you can go, oh, okay, well I can understand that's a World Cup card and it's this and it's that. But right now, if somebody comes in and you're trying to charge more for a card, and it's like, oh, why are you trying to charge more than that? Oh, that one's like, look, it's number 1. Can you see that? It's a really small detail right at the top right hand corner, or it's like there's something off with the card or something that's not obvious, And then if that's like the majority of it, and to some people that will just, that's not, it's just a matter of opinion. That's just a little freckle of a detail versus a whole item that's specifically like dressed up in such a way, so.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like what we're actually doing is like, why is this card worth more? And it's like, well, it's because it has 174 more experience points, and experience points are what you get. And then they're just like, okay, I'm going to go play something else. Thank you for that explanation. Like, I wish XP wasn't so important in this game that we have to like explain it.
Well, I like XP and everything again as well, but I think it's maybe just the way that it is like delivered on site in a way, because like I think a lot of people that want to play like fantasy sports or anything in general, or even buy a card or something like that, you're kind of like setting yourself up to like follow somebody and believe like, oh, this team over the next year in Sorare we can set much longer timescales. Oh, they're going to turn it around and they're going to move up. And I think having XP kind of really does play into that. And it's something that I've always thought is a great part of it. But I think maybe, just somehow, maybe the way it's delivered or whatever, it maybe hasn't quite hit the bullseye. But I think, again, that's a great part of the cards, is that they've got their own XP and they do have that kind of own differential. And it is the whole part of like owning your card and like getting it to level 20 and maxing it out. And it's powerful than any of yours, because I've had mine longer and been rewarded and away for that.
Do you guys think that we'll see more custom series cards?
I hope so.
Yeah.
What kind would you like?
I mean, someone in chat, the Bambo, it'd be cool to do like an MLS draft for the season to win custom series MLS cards and something with utility for completing the collection. That might be cool. Like you complete the whole a whole MLS team throughout the season or something, and you get a limited from that team. Maybe, I don't know. Like I think that like little things like that where you engage people to play the free to play game for a long period of time, and then you give them something at the end would be a good way to bring some of those people onto the platform.
Have you finished?
I think that'd be a well easy one, for MLS especially.
Andy, did you finish the USA set?
I did, yeah.
Do you have any expectation that they will give you something because of that?
No.
Like zero?
Yeah, and I have zero expectation. Like people are saying things like, oh, well, maybe they'll make it so I can use the cards or something. I don't want that. I think that would be bad. To originally say that they were like non-utility cards and then like, oh yeah, well now you can use them for this special tournament or something.
So I completely agree with you there, but I didn't even mean so much that. Like, you have no expectation that they're like, hey, here's a USA banner for your gallery.
That'd be cool, but I don't expect it.
Okay. Do you think anyone else expects it?
Sure.
I guess people always expect something. Quinny, did you collect any? Like, did you think of making it like finishing a collection?
I've collected some litter from rewards, but that's that's been a bit it. But I think they will. Like, I don't think they would openly. Again, kind of in line to something Black said earlier. But like, I don't think they would. I think if they said, "Oh, custom series, complete a collection," and something maybe going on, that stimulates purchases and market pricing and whatever, and that can go sideways quite quickly. So I think maybe if they were going to do something, they probably would keep it right close to their chest. Until it was obvious of like who did it naturally anyway. Maybe in 3 months from now, it's or something. I don't know, perhaps, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if they did something. It doesn't need to be anything magically meaningful, but maybe be something that would accompany the set. Like one more, maybe like a coach or something. Maybe you get the coach if you've got the complete set as of like the 1st of January next year or something. You'll get a bear halter, or you'll get a whoever the coach is for the national team. Something, I don't know. It doesn't need to be anything amazing, And then I don't know.
I'm only laughing because I'm thinking to myself, Andy, would you sell one just so you didn't get the bear halter card?
No, man. I trust Greg.
I was going to say your team trusts Greg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg,
until I don't.
Yeah. Just be like, hey, you want a Greg Bearhalter card? And I'm like, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks.
Actually, I'm like trying to block it. Like, I don't want that. Like, trying to block the transaction. Send it away to someone else.
Right. You're just gonna let that thing, like this jiggling gift box, just stay there forever. Be like Chani's old streams where they're just there, but nothing's. You pretend nothing's there. So for non-free to play stuff, Quinny, you've talked about splitting Challenger before. Do you think that happens? And then B, yes or no, do you think they make any other like changes like that to the existing game in the future?
I would have said no, but after the introduction of the second division, like as a region, like I really wouldn't write anything off. But I do think, again, like last January, we kind of got news that they'd signed these second divisions, if you know what I mean. So I guess there was a bit of foreshadowing ahead of that, but I don't think like Challenger, I don't think they can touch that again until we're saying right the next season Challenger is going to look like this. So I think for at least the remainder of this season, it's probably not going to change, but it's definitely something and maybe even the solution to it isn't chopping it up, is just releasing at limited level, especially a Jupiler division, an SPFL, a Dutch league, an Austria, all the ones that have got full divisions for Croatia and whatever, because that just naturally will then relieve a bit of that pressure, because some of those better teams will focus on that week because the captain's got the good game or their goalkeeper's better or something.
Yeah, I think the thing that I keep thinking about is that once the Prem comes on, there's nothing left to add. Like any other league they add, you're just like, okay, it's more. But like, is there one that's missing once they get the Prem that makes a difference? Like, does the game even grow that much? Meaning like the actual number of teams that we have?
I think you could add the entire South American leagues, MX. I think that there could be some popularity there.
Yeah, Brazil for sure.
Yeah.
If you had every Brazilian team top division, you'd probably remember the reaction we got from Fenerbahce fans when they come on.
Yeah,
I just imagine every Brazilian team being like that.
Yeah, that's fair. The big question that I've had like a number of people bring up to me after we've had like separate conversations, actually more like after Sean and I did like the whole building threshold teams for whatever, and Ben brought this up in chat. What do you guys think the future of threshold is? It's like 100% going away, and it's just like a when, not if, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I hope it's not 100%, but I think with them just being a bigger company, like on the the balance sheet or whatever, it's just a huge it's just a huge liability. You know, you got to think this company started with like 12 people, and now it's like growing. There's like obviously boards of directors, and there's people in charge of this and in charge of that, and some guys in charge of counting the beans, and that's going to be a real easy expense to get off of a sheet somewhere for somebody. But I think for a lot of the rare and the super rare market, it's right into so much of the bedrock of the market itself, you know, in terms of how you value a rare goalkeeper and a guy that can shoot 55 every week, for example.
The game will be them trying to figure out a way to get rid of it without pitchforks coming out. So they'll have to offer something. There'll have to be some kind of compromise where they're offering points or something that act as if it were a threshold, but it's not.
But like that heavily relies on everyone being dumb enough to believe it. That whatever they offer is just as good.
Dumb enough's not, I don't think, the right phrase, but I mean they would have to make the incentive, like the replacement, as good as getting the threshold payment. So maybe it's a card, maybe it's something that is equivalent.
Yeah,
or I mean, pitchforks are coming out.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have it obviously in MLB and NBA, and while those games aren't like the population of players isn't nearly as big, it's working. Like,
yeah,
basketball is growing, prices are going up for a lot of players. They're introducing new competitions now that are basically, hey, you need to buy more cards, and people are buying more cards. So like the idea that it's like unsustainable without the threshold, I think is not right. But I agree. I mean, people are going to be pissed whenever it happens. But I wonder if
I think the only thing that kind of a halfway house is like because there is outside of that. The main problem is there's not any cash spots. You know, when you're playing fantasy sports, and particularly a lot of the stuff that you guys talk about in this channel on the regular, like DFS and whatever, you can find games where the top like 500 people are maybe in the mix for different things, depending on the size of the pot and the competition and whatever. So I think that's the real issue with thresholds being removed, is that the regular availability of the potential win for having a good team, you know, is somewhat diminished. So I think that's maybe something that they have they've not really increased ever, you know, really is like it's just podium payments, isn't it, really, you know? So so I think that's the only way they could get away with that, is if like All-Star pays, you know, or whatever. There's divisions that have like bigger prize pots for ETH pays.
Do you think that they move the threshold goalposts before they just get rid of threshold? Like, do they change it to 250 and 300, or do they just rip the Band-Aid off and say, guys, it's going away?
Well, I think that if the plan is to get rid of it, then they're ripping that Band-Aid off.
Yeah. I mean, don't we know that the plan is to get rid of it?
Well, yeah, I guess we do.
They've been quite coy in their wording around a lot of it whenever they're asked about it. You know, it's like, definitely not for this time, definitely not for that time.
Right.
Always
foreseeable future
phrasing. It's always quite coy and like, you know. So I think it's just that. But again, that's why I said earlier, I hope it's not 100%, because I do feel that also, like, I don't think it's probably even that big a burden for them in reality, you know, for how much it does like create like auction value and stuff like that as well. It's kind of one of these things that it's it's a big part of base values.
Yeah, I think one of the big points, my gosh, Mike Basson is just crushing the chat today because I keep bringing him up.
Oh yeah.
But he's like, how much do you think threshold payments help liquidity in the football game? And I think that's actually, like, I worry that that's what they're overlooking. That, and they know this data, that like, I'm assuming most people don't win a threshold and withdraw. And so they're actually using it to like throw it back in the game, which obviously helps get cards moving on the market. At some point, they're going to start taking a transaction fee on football. I mean, that's another one. Like, I assume they're going to do that because it's like they're doing it everywhere else. And I think they used that foreseeable future line there as well. But it's not just like you're giving out $25 or $50 to everyone every week. Like there are ripple effects to what happens to the market when that liquidity is gone. So that's why I wonder if they actually will move the goalposts a little bit first and just see how much of an effect that has. I don't know. What I don't think that they're going to do is introduce fees on football and keep the threshold. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, that'll just pay for the threshold. It's like, that's not how this is going to work. This is going to be more money to them and less money to us. And it's that simple. Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. I think a part of that is kind of in line with growth also, but because like as long as again, I think it just all comes down to what the actual reward structure is paying out. Like it is, if you're taking something away, there has to be something else to replace it to sustain like how vibrant the competition's been to this point. Particularly in All-Star Rare, people do build teams specifically for it. There's a whole kind of market circled around those cards that will score 50 on average. They'll never do more, never do less. And then those cards, but like you say, it's also the liquidity it feeds back into, but it's also the cutting your teeth part of it as well, and realizing like how hard it is to get a team that scores 380, and what that takes. And then like, what guy, that guy actually, I think he's an amazing player, but he can't break 58 or, so I think not only the monetary side of things, but the actual, for the people that do want to try it, it's like a great like kind of proving ground everyone goes through. It's grinding thresholds to then bashing thresholds to then, right, I'm after cards, like it's a nice, and I know there's some other things that limited and commons that they try and replace that with to an extent as well. But if you're going to spend proper money on proper cards, I think that is hard to replace in that respect.
So do you think that they can just replace thresholds with some sort of, I mean, are we really going back to the progression bar? But like, is it basically that? Like, I think there's a part of the threshold part of the game that allows people to think that they're winning while not having to compete against like the biggest galleries. Like playing against the game is different than playing against everyone else. And so you can have, if it's 380 points to win a tier 3 in All-Star Rare, but you score 255, like you won something. And is the won something more valuable or more important, than the here is your ETH? Like, does that make sense? Like if they still have a beat the game part of Sorare, is that enough? Whatever.
Almost like what they have in the Global Cup right now. Like what if that was the beat the game thing? You had to beat Dan and Dan and Carl's lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of the game is underrated. That like you don't need to beat everyone who can roll out a Real Madrid or Bayern or Liverpool stack. Just beat this score, and doing that keeps these cards that normally we wouldn't want, and it keeps them somewhat.
Or maybe the answer to that is just go to the same scoring method that we have in basketball.
I pay a lot of money for guys that don't score that well just because they don't score that well.
Yeah,
for basketball.
They might score that well this week.
That's right.
And there'll be situations like that in football where it makes a lot soccer where that happens. Just because Quinny's on the podcast this week doesn't mean I'm calling it football. But there'll be moments where a guy's hurt and whatever, Benzema's hurt and whoever his backup is playing this week, and you're gonna want to plug that guy in, and that guy is gonna be worth more this week. That might even be a bad example. I think the better example is guys that are constant guys that score 35 to 40 points that are worth nothing right now. There might be a week where it's like, oh well, he's either got a good matchup, they're at home. Or he's going to be asked to play in a more attacking role or something like that, and where it is a good spot to use that guy.
Yeah. I think kind of what you were saying earlier, Like, so that kind of side of things in terms of what NBA brings to it, along with what we've had with the Global Cup. Like, see if that was the whole common experience. Like, you draft, they've all got a value. You start with them, then you go into the arenas. They've all got to meet points totals. You win more cards as you go. You know, that whole part of it could be that could be a complete piece, couldn't it?
I definitely think that's where we're going for the free to play part.
Because random commons suck as well. Like, if you're thinking about new people, getting random people, you've got no idea who the hell they are. Like, you want to come on and at least think, oh, well, I've picked him and I'd picked that guy. Oh, he was only 8 points and I know better. And, you know, if you can get those kind of wee things very quickly, I think that's a good one. So I think I think all this stuff all bumps into each other.
And there might be guys that you want to root for and guys that you don't want to root for.
Sure.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's how I started. Like when I joined, so that was like November 2020. Like you got your commons with a salary cap and everyone had a salary and you just had to draft guys within that.
Yeah.
And looking back, I was very, very bad at it, but it at least got my cards. Like, I mean, they obviously went back to it with the Global Cup. Like, I think that's a much more valuable game to people than here are 20 cards. Go, good luck.
Yep.
Like the NBA one, like I have awful NBA commons. And like when I got you can choose one of the 5 to start. And literally I had like no Doncic, no Giannis, no Curry, no Morant. Like I got Karl Anthony Towns was the best one I had, who they probably thought was great because he did the video. But like,
yeah.
And like that
game
game's not fun. Yeah. So
Bambo wants to know where we're all at and overall in the Global Cup, and I don't know because I don't know how to check.
I've been AFK all day. I have not even got any idea.
I stopped after the first match week. I stopped really caring.
I think so many people built for match day 1, and it just so turns out that was the match day that really went off with some big scores because match day 2 and obviously match day 3 we're halfway through now. There's not been the same like volume of huge scores. I don't think is what we had on match day 1 in such a predictable way. You know, it was all the England smashing France, whatever. So I think match day 1, you guys have spoke about it before we were leading up to it, but it was huge. And it's kind of decided this group stages. I've not even looked at the draft yet. I'm looking forward to doing that tomorrow.
Yeah. We have to do that tomorrow? Oh, God. Andy, what do you think about burning cards?
No. That's my only response, no.
Okay. Okay. Quinny?
I'd be happy to like burn custom series cards or commons against something. Like,
how could you burn the most collectible things on the platform?
But again, if it gets you like a Diamond Series Greg Berhalter, then maybe you want to do that.
You're really pushing this Berhalter card.
It just depends about how they want to do it, you know. But if it was like burn 4 bronze US custom series cards and get 1 gold or something like that.
I think people are more interested in like how many real limited cards to get something else. Like,
yeah.
I'm in 30,000th, 495th place. That seems okay. 30, but I have both De Bruyne and Kimmich, so I don't know. I don't know how I've gotten there with those 2 midfielders.
I don't even know where to go. Here we go. Live Global Cup. 99,062. That seems bad.
Probably not.
Up to 540,000.
Top 20% though, I think.
What does that get me? Does that get me the Berhalter diamond or no?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Where am I? 40,000 if.
That's a number.
Got the champ right here.
So yeah, you're winning, Andy. Look at you. Look at you. I have. Yeah, nice. I don't know. What I find funny is
somehow got a 60 today.
Who did?
De Bruyne.
Yeah.
That's with Captain Bonus.
Mike said, I cannot believe how many sensible people chose KDB. Yeah, he was awful. So bad in all 3 games. Just looked like an old bag of bones.
Yeah, it's almost like that team is dust and nobody realized it.
Yeah.
The golden generation when they're all 34 doesn't work as well.
I just thought De Bruyne could one-man it, but at least that was kind of my hope going into at least this one match day. Is De Bruyne can run it? If somebody
Bang in
can
a
take a
couple
match,
free
it's him.
kicks or something. You know.
Yeah.
Nope.
I remember,
Lukaku, man, how many? He was trying so hard to miss tonight, wasn't he?
Who, Lukaku?
oh,
He's terrible, man. Tonight, everyone bounced off him. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was wild. Like
not great.
One of the ones, probably the worst one, would have been called off for a corner anyway. So he's kind of, probably sleep well tonight knowing that, but he was brutal.
I do remember, I think he was on an end product, which if anybody who doesn't listen to the end product podcast, you're giving it's a huge disservice not to. But I think you guys were talking about that with KDB, that like kind of similar to like an NBA. There are like certain guys who like might be able to just take over, and he's one of them. And today, he just couldn't take over enough.
No.
Well.
Definitely missing Haaland.
Yeah. Back to the burn thing, because I have already lost it in chat, but somebody's like, yeah, you burn like 5 tier 3s to get a tier 2 limited. I think that's basically what you do when you make a deal with Pavel. Like Pavel Trader is the Sorare burn mechanism. That's all.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Which Quinny, shout out to you for that shirt that you were sporting the other day.
That's a belter, isn't it?
I'm like
That was from
my lack of awareness is so bad because I watched that entire show that you did and I didn't notice the shirt until Andrew said something about it, and I was like, wait a minute, I think I watched that one. And I went back and I was like, yep, I sure did.
It literally, like, I couldn't even listen to the first like 30 seconds of the video because I was like just like laughing at the shirt so much. I loved it. Where was that from? Sorare merch?
It's from So Merch, which is run by the fantastic people at the Sorare Odyssey. So Etienne23, that's my manager name, and Mark Patrick Rare. So yeah, it's all over Twitter and stuff like that. I think they've got a wee shop open. They've got some stuff as well. They were telling me about it last time they were in the studio, but when they're starting out, what they've done, I've seen the Enzo one and it's beautiful, but what they're doing is they're minting 5 custom t-shirts, and they're like all like so rare, like cult heroes. So Enzo's one, I think there might be a Cecilia or a Vanakin or something, and it's like a proper, it looks like graffiti art, like almost of like Che Guevara or something, but it's Enzo Fernandez, and it's on a nice t-shirt, like it's well made and well designed and all that. And I think they're doing that for their launch. So if you do the Twitter stuff and all that, like there's stuff on there it is pretty cool.
Need to find them
as well. Yeah, and I've got like, people don't need to know this, but like I've got a lot of like gig t-shirts, like in like that t-shirt. I'm just gonna, it's good. It's a good t-shirt, if you know what I mean. It's not like it's no crap. It's no cheap crap. Let me tell you that. It's a good t-shirt.
I want one. Simple as that.
There's a Lampy one. There's a Lampy one. I think Mikey said it. There's a Lampy one.
I have a Lampy card. Does that get me a shirt? I should probably
Maybe.
make that happen. Oh well.
So yes, that's So Merch, Sorare Odyssey, all those good people.
Yeah. So Merch, is there, like, is that the website or is that their Twitter handle? I guess I could just...
Yeah, I'm sure it's I think it's both. So Merch, somerch.co, I think it's the site.
Yes, okay. Yeah, we'll have to check that out.
So yeah, so they brought around. So Sean, Etienne23 came around to the studio. We watched the very first game of the World Cup, which was Ecuador against Qatar, and I don't think anyone came to the live stream. It was just me and Etienne. We were just watching Qatar Ecuador, and he brought the t-shirt over for me, and I was like, "Oh, this is quality, man. It's proper good. It's the font, it's the color, it's like it's the notification. You know, it's absolutely perfect." So yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out for sure. Is that the future of Sorare? T-shirts? Hats? Maybe?
Pavel Traders rejected your offer will definitely be merchandise you'll see all over the world in the next couple of years.
I did see.
Remember, like the Sorare advert. They'll be the next one they do. Somebody will have that T-shirt on. You know.
Yeah.
It'll have like maybe spaghetti on it, and just be like, they'll be doing something in one of the wee shots in the advert, or like oil grease or something. They're fixing their bike chain or something. Oh, better check the teams.
I think Nicholas liked the tweet, or say he acknowledged it, the T-shirt. So maybe there's something there. Andy, do you think, since you've been dabbling in NBA and MLB, do you think football is the biggest Sorare sport in a year?
Yeah, it still will be. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it will be after Threshold's taken away?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're smart enough to do that, to approach that in a way that does not, incite the masses.
Really?
If they're not, then they're burning their product down to the ground. So I think that
That's
they're
not the burn mechanism we were talking about.
Yeah, right. I think they're intelligent enough to come up with a incentive that people would be okay with, a trade-off, a compromise, something
Right.
like that.
Right. So, Quinny, today is December 1st, 2020. We have about 185,000, we're over 185,000 users who own one or more car.
Nice.
Where do you think we are 6 months after the Prem is announced?
Ooh, 6 months after the Prem.
Do we even need 6 months? Like, do you think everybody who joins because of the Prem joins within 3 months, 1 month? Well, one seems aggressive, but like, is it not until next season actually that they really start to come?
Timing is quite important on this stuff because, again, like the gym memberships analogy, like you maybe don't need to start playing FPL, or even you definitely don't need to play Sorare at the beginning of the season. But people will be open to these things at different points of like the football year, or even just their life of what's going on. And the holiday season is definitely where you could pick up a new game or a new habit or a new hobby or whatever. So I don't know if it comes out in like mid-February. I don't know if, maybe 6 months is by the time you're getting warmed up for the new season. Maybe that's when the uplift would happen, for example. Whereas, like, if it did kind of slice in the next week or two, and they could really, so again, they were talking about all this promotion stuff for the Global Cup, and I think they've done a lot of good stuff. But I'm expecting to see Messi at halftime on the TV with Sorare. I'm expecting to see that advert somewhere pop up soon, or something similar to it. So, if eventually that does roll out and they do that kind of stuff, and they caught it in December, people have maybe, again, I've seen this to somebody earlier, but I think the Global Cup, advertising wise for Sorare, I think the main job they wanted wasn't necessarily that chart to go up. Obviously, going up's nice, but I think they wanted just increased name recognition, because the amount of people you guys have talked about on this show, probably more than anyone, you literally go to anyone, I'll play Sorare. What? Like, what even is that? Like, it doesn't, so like, they need to get past that before releasing the Prem, of course. So I think this is what they've tried to use the World Cup for, is just then they've been on all these, like, John, Fiago, all these guys have got millions of views on all their Global Cup stuff, like their shorts and their TikToks and everything. And it's huge exposure. So then when the Premier League comes out, all these people that have seen this stuff, they've already heard of it. And I think that's all they've really wanted from this Global Cup, is when the Prem comes, or when they do really push things out, people see it and all that. Oh yeah, that thing again? What was that? Oh yeah, I seen that yesterday. Or, I think that's the kind of step that the Prem should be happening around. So again, I think it's quite time. I think it's quite, I don't know. That's the best I've got. Sorry.
No, I think you made a really good point that kind of reminded me of something else. I was talking to somebody that I used to work with, who has been involved in fantasy sports for like 30 years, basically, for as long as you could possibly be involved in fantasy sports here in the US. And we were talking about Sorare MLB initially, and how it didn't really take off. Like, I don't know what the expectations were, but it's obviously not a huge game yet. And he said every fantasy game he's ever seen that launched mid-season just didn't take off, meaning didn't take off right away. Because like for traditional American sports, like a big part of playing fantasy sports is the draft and like getting your players at the beginning of the season. And people get really excited like leading up to seasons. And if you're midway through, it's like there are so many people who get really excited before seasons start and they drop off. But then other people are just kind of like already in their games. Fantasy baseball is kind of unique just in a lot of ways. But I do wonder if we don't, like, if they announce the Prem and like we start getting cards like right after the World Cup, I do wonder if it'll take until July, August for it to really like register with the Premier League people that they're expecting will, storm the gates and buy cards, because like we're halfway through the season. So like nobody wants to start a fantasy game midway through the season, even though Sorare itself is just like game week to game week. Like they're all different. You can kind of start whenever you want, but just like in people's minds, like fantasy sports start when seasons start. And so I wonder if we'll actually have a bigger push of users closer to like this summer because of the Premier League than we do right when they announce and start selling cards. Does that seem reasonable, Andy?
Yeah.
Sure. I think there's other factors too. Like we see how the market reacts in general to like cards that are released at the end of their seasonality, where it's like, yeah, actually in 3 months they lose their bonus and that whole thing. But yeah,
Quinny's an expert there.
What's that?
Quinny's an expert there. Like, didn't the Celtic cards come out in like April?
No, it was like March. I know, April, May time. You can check whenever I bought McGregor. McGregor's a day one auction, so
Yeah.
whenever
I think that's definitely a factor.
awful timing.
And then the whole like, when does the license agreement actually start? Is it for the 2022-23 season, 23 season? I don't know. So that of course matters. And then yeah, I agree with what you said. Like people care at the beginning. They get hyped up at the beginning. That's when they're really wanting to hop into it. Quinny made an awesome point, like comparing the gym memberships in FPL. Like that's when people are looking to get in, and then they forget about it, or they're either retained or not retained at that point.
Right. Mark said in chat he thought the first week of January would be the best for the Prem. I feel like the only reason, like I've heard other people say this as well, and I feel like the only reason is just because like, oh, the World Cup's over, so let's do something else, as opposed to just like we get back into the groove. I also feel like there's a break. There's like an FA Cup weekend that like in the second week of January, something like that, where like they're not actually playing Premier League matches because they have that, they like jam them in on Boxing Day and New Year's Eve and all that stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if there's a best time. I think sooner is better than later for everything. But yeah, I just wonder. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to take these cards out. We're not going to see, I don't know how you can like look at the price, look at the user chart and just be like, oh yeah, it'll keep going up like this. I'm going to try to pull it up here. Just because there's just too many, like, how do you improve on this growth?
I think the numbers that matter is when we see the casual league from, like, I don't know, the first or second week in January, whenever or maybe even over Christmas, when we've got enough kind of teams back up and running. When you see, the casual league, how that's grown, because like I was mentioning earlier, I don't think the Global Cup, I don't think they're too bothered about this chart. I think they're just all concerned about name recognition, get some people opening their accounts and figuring it out, and like, having that kind of try before you buy element. So I'd be interested to see how the casual numbers actually progress over, because also now the Global Cup and all the international specials dominate the whole SO5 arena now. So once they go away and we get back to game weeks, I think that'll be a really interesting tell.
Yeah.
That chart you just had very obviously shows that all of our wives, dogs, cats are getting custom series cards is what I'm seeing there. That's what it's telling me.
I'm not 100% sure that includes them, to be honest. I'll double check on that, to be honest.
I think it has to, because it's users with at least one card, and a lot of those people won exactly one card.
Exactly one. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not 100%, to be honest. Mostly because of the way that those are presented in the API. They might be different. I'll find out. I'll follow up on that.
interesting.
There's two World Cup games going that just started. So I'm going to cut us off quickly. But after this, one last question, because I like this question from Daniel Cooper. Will new users be able to get commons just from the Prem in their onboarding? Like, we want the Prem, because all the people who play FPL and who follow the Prem can join. And what happens when they get all of these guys from Belgium and the Netherlands and Turkey that they don't want? How do you think that matters? And do you think that that's actually like a turnoff for these people?
Yeah, people want to play with cards that they know who they are. Like,
right.
I'm sorry, like, they don't want JNK League cards, or, I mean, some people do, but the masses don't. They want, KDB and Holland and whoever.
Right. They want KDB, not Kim Tae-hwan. And yeah. By the way, I have a Kim Tae-hwan and not a KDB myself, but what are you going to do? Yeah, I don't know.
I think if the Global Cup format became like the onboarding process, and like, you've got the points, and if you want to go pick up 8 guys from the Prem and then 2 guys from Celtic, or 2 guys from wherever you're from or whatever, then you can have that wee bit of mix and match. I think if they did it solely Prem, I think again that moves away from what Sorare is in a respect. But I think if you had it where, if you want to pick them all from the Prem, on you go. Like, no one's going to stop you. We don't want you playing the common cards that are in Division 2 Germany and stuff like that, where you will have zero, engagement with, So I think if they do that, then having them just readily available and they can be selected is the key part of it, really, rather than doing it especially for it.
So this is actually going to be the last thing. Do you think it's better for them to have regional common competitions, or they get rid of all existing commons and we all start over from scratch and do like a Global Cup draft and we go from there?
I think you'd piss off a ton of people.
You're going to piss off a lot of people by getting rid of commons? Or their existing commons?
Yeah.
And with the opportunity to draft exactly who you want.
Yeah, the opportunity to get worse commons than they already have now. Yes.
That's fair.
You'll piss people
all that
off.
Farming you've done. Boom. Gone.
With that said, I think that you could do something where it's like every July 1st you redraft your commons or something like that to like reset everybody back to the same level. You could do something like that.
Yeah.
But you better announce that soon.
Yeah. I do
Might
think
just be something now going forward. That's the way commons work. And if you've got commons from before, then good luck to you. Well done. And anyone joining now, this is the script. Like you're saying, draft every year, or draft when you come on, and then go from there.
I do feel like having only one common competition really does a disservice to anyone who wants to play, to really play, because so much of the game is like, do I play my best card here, or do I put it here? And do I want to put this U23 here, even though he's got a perfect matchup, so I can play him an all-star? Like, that part of the game is like, that's a huge strategy part of the game that is completely missing from the casual game. And the fact that I mean, I don't even know how many commons I have at this point, but like, if I'm only using 5 per week and then just chucking the rest in training, like, that's not helping me like get better at the game in the future. Yeah. Oh, well.
I don't know.
All right. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I'm thinking from their side of things, if they did open regions, you're kind of like multiplying your common like commitment as a company by like 5 in terms of manpower and generating rewards and leaderboards and all the rest of it and everything else. Maybe, I don't know, because again, I know we're trying to go watch the football, so, but just when you're saying there, even if they ended in, probably wouldn't need to do underdog, but you could do like specialist for common and stuff like that, then you're at least getting that whole L15 under 40, getting an over 60, and you can maybe try and play that side of things as well. So, sorry.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that they could do even in that part of the game that I guess doesn't require them to get rid of all commons and have us start over.
I have one last thing before you sign us off.
Yeah.
I want Quinny's scoring predictions for the 2 games that are going on right now.
I can't remember what they were when I recorded them.
So, you already.
I've got. So let me see what game. It's Japan, isn't it? Okay, I think Germany are going to win like 6-0 or something. It's going to be a big German win, and I think Spain won't be too far behind them, but Japan will probably score a goal or 2. So maybe like 4-2 to Spain, 3-1, and then I think Germany are going to batter Costa Rica.
So take the over on goals, Quinny. Huh?
Yeah, I was going to say we needed this
over on goals for
8 minutes
easy.
ago. Banging goals. All right. Thank you to everybody who has joined us. The chat was particularly active today. Clearly, everybody comes in because Quinny's here. Quinny, thank you for coming on and joining us.
Thank you.
If you all could please hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. That's always helpful. Go over to Quinny 3001. Subscribe to that channel if you haven't already. It'd be silly if you haven't subscribed already. And then just click all of his videos and just hit like all of them. And then just put them on in the background while you're watching football, just to get those views up. So yeah, I'll be back next week with Sean for the strategy show, NBA show as well, and then SorareAndrews later in the week. And I feel like we didn't finish today, so maybe we can trick Quinny to come back very soon. We'll see. All right, thank you, gentlemen, and good luck in the Global Cup.